Look, if I'm being honest, I think that advice right there is the worst advice you can give to a widowed person who's going back out there into the dating world. If you tell a widowed person who's going back out there into the dating world, do not talk about the person you lost with any new love interest, I think that's the worst advice you can give them. Now, let me be clear before I give you some thoughts on this. If that's the decision you make for yourself, you decide that you're not going to talk about your deceased love with any new love interest, that's fine. I want you to empower yourself to make your own decisions, live your own life. That's fine. But what I'm talking about is telling other people that that's how they should proceed. I think it's the worst advice ever. Let's talk about it for a few minutes. First of all, do I think that on your first date with Bob, you should talk about your late husband, Michael, for 72 of the 94 minutes that you're on the date? No, I don't. Do I think that if 3 months into seeing Jenny, you bring her back to your place and y'all are going to get intimate for the first time, do I think that you should have a shrine of Sharon above the bed? And she's going to see the shrine above the bed right before you get intimate for the first time? Probably not. Probably not. But here's what happens. If we decide that we are never going to speak about our person in front of our new love interest, here's what happens. 18 months into the relationship with the new person, you're going to be sitting there one day. More than likely. You're going to more than likely be sitting there one day. And you are going to realize, damn, I never talk about Jerry when I'm with Craig ever. Damn, it's been 18 months. I never talk about Jerry when I'm with Craig ever. And even if you intellectually can say to yourself, yeah, but that's the decision you made. You made that decision not to talk about Jerry. Even if you can intellectually say that to yourself, we are emotional beings. And there is a high likelihood that on some kind of emotional level, you are going to start to resent your new partner because you can't talk about Jerry, or because you've made the decision that you can't talk about Jerry. Now, let's say that somebody is watching this video and they're like, but John, I didn't make the decision. My new partner, Jerome, told me that I could not talk about Tony. He told me he didn't want to hear about Tony. Why would you want to be with somebody like that, y'all? How does that even work, y'all? If you have a 9-year-old child and now y'all are going to spend the first Christmas together and you're sitting around the Christmas tree with your new partner, and your 9-year-old kid wants to talk about mom or wants to talk about dad, they're not supposed to be able to. They can't talk about their parent who died because the new partner is going to get butthurt. Let's take kids out of it. You're in a new relationship for 8 months now, and you have a moment where you tear up or you begin to cry. What are you supposed to do? Run to the bathroom? They can't see your pain. They can't see it. You have a moment where you're like gonna laugh because a funny memory popped into your mind about the person you lost. They can't see you laugh. You're supposed to run to the bedroom and hide your laughter. When we hide the love that we had for our person and will always have for our person, when we hide the pain that we endured, when we hide those things, we're not even allowing our new person to get to know us. They're not seeing the love you had for that person. They're not seeing the pain that you went through and the pain that you'll always carry with you. They're also not seeing how you got back up and how you rebuilt yourself. They're not seeing that either. They're not really getting to know you. Now, I know that there's going to be people on here who are like, oh, come on, man. You think you're the expert in this? Yeah, I do. Being widowed for 9 years and doing this work for 7 years and doing over 6,000 coaching sessions and having speeches and workshops about widow dating and having a book I wrote about widow dating, which I wrote 5 or 6 years ago. And if I wrote it now, it would be even so much better. I think I'm the expert on this. But beyond that, it doesn't matter. The advice I'm giving you is the right advice, y'all. When I met my fiance, Allie, she had never been engaged. She had never been married. She had no idea what it was like to date a widowed person. Did I talk about Michelle nonstop when I met Allie? No. Did I have to kind of ease her into dating a widowed person? Yes. Does Allie accept the fact that I will always love Michelle? And I will always miss Michelle? She accepts it, but more than that, she embraces it. She embraces it. And I'm telling y'all, having met thousands and thousands and thousands of widow people and having done this work for so long, that's what's out there. That's what's out there. There are people who will not just accept it, there are people who will embrace it. You deserve that. Don't settle for less. Here's my last thought, because I could give you a million more thoughts on this topic, but here's my last thought for the purpose of making this video not an hour and a half. If, God forbid, Allie were to pass away 8 years from now, and a couple years after she passes, I go back out there and I start dating again and I find someone special. Here's what would happen. Allie, through seeing how I loved Michelle and still love Michelle, Allie would know that I'm never going to forget about her either. Allie would know, Allie does know, that God forbid that were to happen, I would never forget about her either. I would love her too for the rest of my days.